You're watching the Batter Fans Network.
The Herons are back. Beards talking balls, rapping pink and black. Coming live from the 305, it's official tissue. The Batter Fan, Chris and Dan, weekly rocking with you. We talk Messi, Boosie, Jordy, Lucho, the Fat Four, to Ben Cram, Noah, Ruiz, Fred. What more could you ask for? Tighten up and get ready, listen in on the pod. Solana and X in Espanol, just to even the odds. Breakdowns and gas bagging, join the tribe and just vibe. $3.99, don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't hesitate, say what's up, go ahead and come in. No question about it, I'm ready to get hurt again.
No question about it, I am ready to get hurt again.
Solana, the Herons are back. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 375 of the Better Herons podcast. I am your host, Daniel Ganana, and alongside me, I got Mr. Daniel Solana. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, I don't know. I see the chat says that their cafecito is getting cold. My cafecito is lovely. I just finished it, and I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Inter Miami is probably the best that they have been all season today. And we got another game tonight. So what a way to start the week. Herons are in first place in their group. We're having cafecito. We're back after a year, and we got a game tonight. Dude, it couldn't be a better Monday.
We haven't done these cafecitos in a while. Obviously, we both work. Solana has a little more freedom than I do, but it's the summertime, so I have some freedom. I love doing these early morning shows. And Adarsh, I am finally back from vacation, and it's good to be talking. And I haven't really had a chance to really dive into what's been going on with the Club World Cup because I feel like I left right when it started. I had a YouTube commenter saying they were criticizing us because they said that we give 3 to 4 pointless shows throughout the regular season, and then this tournament starts, and all of a sudden we're not putting out a lot of content. We don't get paid for this, guys. Sorry. We vacation, we have fun, but we're back, and hopefully this tournament goes on a little longer so we could talk about it for a little longer. But the tournament has been much better than anticipated. The Brazilian league has shown out, which has been absolutely awesome because they're representing the Americas. And when it's America versus Europe, I'm going for the Americas. And I wanted to get your thoughts just overall on the Club World Cup because it's been a lot of fun to watch. Been surprising. And I have seen some people, talking a little nonsense about when their teams lose, obviously. We're not taking it that seriously. Not our full A teams there, blah, blah, blah. What have been your thoughts on the Club World Cup so far? And then the attendance. I think we should talk about that also.
First off, I love the Club World Cup. I thought it was a fantastic, tournament to put together. Obviously, there was a lot of unknowns with how it was going to be, how the attendance was going to be, how the players were going to react to the weather. Those are all things that we're probably going to talk about throughout the show. But overall, I love the Club World Cup. I mean, you can see the passion that the South American fans bring. I was at the Boca game on Friday. I'm wearing their jersey because mad respect to La Doce. I literally felt like I was in La Bombonera North on Friday night. But you've seen that same passion from the Urawa Reds fans from Japan, in both the games that they've played. The first one against River, the next one against Inter Milan. They were even beating Inter Milan for most of the game, and then Inter Milan came back. So I think it's been fantastic. Even the Mamelodi Sundowns, everybody wrote them off. They've been pretty good. Ulsan, who, again, nobody knew who they were coming into this tournament. They put up a great fight against Dortmund. So the games have been fantastic, other than a couple of games. Obviously, that Bayern Munich 10-0 against Auckland City was kind of a snooze fest, but that's what you'd expect against a team that has full of amateurs, right? They work all day like us, and then they play.
And I thought the story was interesting, right? Because and full disclosure, I had no idea that they were all part-timers when I first started watching it. Well, as I started finding out, it's such an awesome story. That's kind of how you figure that a professional team would look against amateurs.
100%. And look, I think the big thing that the other thing that I like that's been talked about is Gianni Infantino mentioned that 2029 we might extend the Club World Cup to 48 teams, similarly how they've done to the World Cup. And I like that, Danny, because I think there's a handful of teams who were left off due to only having 32 teams. For example, Nacional in Uruguay, Peñarol in Uruguay, Colo Colo in Chile. There are teams that deserve to be here because of the history, because of the amount of times that they've won. Maybe they're not the greatest right now, but their fan bases deserve to be a part of the Club World Cup.
I agree with you to an extent. I think there are some teams, even in Europe. Arsenal probably should have been a part. Liverpool should have been a part of this. Barcelona. Right. So there are some teams that you wish that would have participated, which would have made this better. But then you also have to add extra teams from other continents that you've seen some of the teams that have been showing up, and not all of them are performing necessarily great. And then you're gonna bring the second and third place teams from those countries or continents also. I don't know. I just wish that they wouldn't do the last 4 years and they would figure out a way to do just more recent results, because Liverpool and Arsenal should have been in this tournament. It shouldn't be Chelsea, and Barcelona should have been part of it. I don't know. They could do something to fix it where they take more current results, I feel, to represent. Because Seattle, for example, what the hell is Seattle doing in there?
Well, they won. They're the only American team to win a current format of the CONCACAF Champions Cup.
Understood, but that was 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I wish they would use more current results, because I feel like when you do it internationally and you cover over the last 4 years, I get it. That's fine. Those teams stay relatively the same, but a club team, if you take a club team from 4 years ago, the chances of them having the same roster, you might have a handful of players that were there 4 years ago. So I feel like I like the idea. I like what you're saying, but I wish that they would change a little bit of the requirements on how you would actually qualify for this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, here's the other caveat, which I heard also from, like, how we like to say sources, right? MLS would get 4 guaranteed spots in that 48 team tournament. So for MLS, it would be fantastic, because right now they weren't guaranteed any spots, right? They were just guaranteed because of, one spot, right? And everybody complained about who got that one spot. Unfortunately, everybody who complained can probably take those complaints and stick them right where the sun doesn't shine, because that team who was invited has been the best MLS team in this tournament. And it's not even close, because you had LAFC get embarrassed by that's right, by ES Tunis. And you had Seattle lose both of their games. Obviously, they've played against tougher opponents. Atletico Madrid is a tough opponent. They had a decent showing against Botafogo. But now let's see what happens when they play PSG. And PSG needs these points, right? PSG only has 3 points. They need these points to qualify.
Yeah. No, PSG isn't guaranteed to make it. But I know I'm getting ahead of myself because we're going to talk about it later. But how great would it be to see Messi versus PSG? Which I don't know if it would happen at this point, because it looks like PSG might end up second in their group if they make it. And unless Inter Miami wins the group, they wouldn't play each other. But that would be such an awesome result or game. To the point that you were saying, people that were talking crap about Inter Miami making it or being given that spot, MLS fans sometimes are delusional. You want MLS to look good in this tournament, and everybody knows that the best team in this league to compete in a tournament like this was Inter Miami. And the only other team that possibly could have maybe competed was Columbus before they lost Cucho, and I'm blanking on this other kid, Ramirez, that left. But outside of those two teams, who else was going to compete in this tournament? Nobody. It's kind of worked out just as I figured that it would for the MLS in this tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I not that I want to toot my own horn, Danny, but before the tournament started, there was a lot of backlash. People were saying Inter Miami wasn't going to win a game. I went on the Cincinnati Soccer Talks podcast, the jersey swap with the fellas from Cincinnati, Justin Blair. Yeah, and I laid it all out there, Danny. I said my dark horse or I guess my big
to win the tournament
of the tournament was Inter Miami passing the group stage. That was my big surprise. Yeah. A lot of folks didn't think that it was going to happen, and they're in the driver's seat now to basically control their own destiny and get first place and possibly play against PSG if PSG ends up in second place. It all depends on what happens in the game today between Botafogo and Atletico Madrid. That'll be at 3 p.m. And then we know PSG is going to do their thing against Seattle. So, I think if Inter Miami was able to win, they might get PSG. They might get Atletico Madrid. I think I would prefer to see Inter Miami versus Atletico de Madrid just because there's so many Argentinians on Atletico Madrid. It would be interesting to see how they treat Messi. And also, Diego Simeone is the coach, right? Yeah, you got Messi's butt buddy, Rodrigo de Paul, on there. So it would be interesting to see how they play against him. And personally, I think Inter Miami has a better chance against Atletico de Madrid than they would against, obviously, PSG.
I guess for me, the storyline of PSG versus Messi is what intrigues me the most, even though I know out of those three teams, maybe PSG would probably be the most difficult opponent. But I also, and maybe this is a weird way of thinking, but if you get knocked out by the Champions League champs, I feel like it just doesn't feel as bad, right? Not Botafogo, champions of Copa Libertadores, also very respectable, but everybody's looking at PSG as the team. So you're like, okay, well, you know what? Give me the best. I'll play against the best. And if I lose to the best, it is what it is. Even though Botafogo beat them, which was awesome.
I was going to mention the champion of South America, the Libertadores, beat the champion of Europe of the Champions League 1-0. It was a fantastic game.
Well, they scored and then they dropped back, which is respectable. Fuck it. You do it. You do what you got to do.
That's what you do in South America. That's what you do when you play a team who you know is superior to you. You get a goal any way that you can, and then you defend for your life for the rest of the game. And it worked for them. But not only did they defend for their life, they were also attacking on the counterattacks. They were getting their chances. So I mean, look, I would prefer Inter Miami matchup wise to play against Atletico de Madrid. I think it would be the best game for Inter Miami. But look, at this point, just getting by the group stage. I mean, Inter Miami is going to they've already made $9 million for participating in the tournament, $2 million for beating Porto, $1 million for tying Ali. So if they can get another tie today and they can move to the knockout stage, that's another $1 million that they would make today, plus another $7.5 million that they would make for moving into the knockout stage. So Inter Miami is making close to $20 million just for participating in this tournament. Just think about that. $20 million. That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, but when you have a salary cap, it doesn't make a difference.
Well,
because
and when
you're not allowed to use
Don Garber's going to pocket 19 out of that 20, it doesn't matter.
And that also, right? That's what Seattle was complaining about. But so it doesn't make a difference. Like for those teams from Africa, like the Al Ahly that we were playing against and stuff, we had Mo from Egypt that joined us, and he was talking about how excited they were to possibly get a draw or even win, get out of the group, because that much money over there in Egypt goes a long way to signing players in that continent. But for us, we can't even use the money, even though we won't get a lot of it, like you said. But yeah.
Well, it also means a lot for the teams in South America as well. I mean, that's an open market. So and you can tell that it means a lot to them by the way that they're playing, by the way that the fans have come out and responded. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that when we get into the Palmeiras game, about Inter Miami and their fans, because I'm a little, let's say, I don't want to say upset, but yeah, disappointed. I'm very disappointed, and I have some inside sources that have told me some interesting information about La Familia. So we'll share that when we get into the Palmeiras.
All right. So real quick, Pedri was asking what if PSG thrashes IM or Inter Miami by double digits? Do you still want that matchup? Well, I mean, obviously, I don't want anybody losing by double digits, but I think that you are underestimating Inter Miami. Do I think that they can win? Maybe not. I don't think they're going to lose. They're not going to get 10-0 by like Bayern and Auckland City. Like if Inter Miami can lock it down, also they could sit deep if they wanted to. They're not going to get scored on 10 times. Maybe they'll lose by 2 or 3 goals. I wouldn't doubt it. But I'd rather see that than I don't think that they'll lose by double digits.
No, all right.
No. All right. So going back to Inter Miami, they beat Porto. Going into this, I always thought that of the three teams, I thought Al Ahly was the team that we could possibly beat. I thought Porto would be the team that we could possibly draw with. And I always thought that Palmeiras was the team that we would probably have the hardest time getting a result from. And I know that you thought differently. You agreed with me with the Al Ahly, but you thought that Palmeiras was the beatable team and Porto not so much. We have 4 points so far. We beat Porto, which I don't think a lot of people were expecting. I thought it might be a draw. Do you think, because a lot of people have been saying that this is the biggest win in Inter Miami history, and I've been having a hard time kind of deciding myself whether I agree or not. What do you think? Do you think that this was the biggest win in Inter Miami's short history?
No doubt, no doubt. I mean, you were the first American team to beat a European team in a competitive tournament sanctioned by FIFA. And not only just any European team. It's not like you beat, one of these lower division teams or lower first division teams in Germany or in Holland or any. No, you beat a team who's won the UCL champions before. Mind you, they're not in their best.
No, that was like 20 years ago.
Well, they're one of the best teams in Portugal. I mean,
absolutely,
and they have been for many years.
And that's why they are in this tournament, right? They had to qualify for the tournament.
100%. So, but no doubt, I think it's 100% the biggest win. I know I see Pedri here putting Leagues Cup finals. Come on, guys. That's a Cafecito Cup that didn't mean anything. Maybe this year when the format has changed a little bit. Maybe it'll mean a little bit more because you're playing all Mexican teams in the first round now. But the fact that you basically played a bunch of American teams to get into the finals, I mean, that's just like winning a shorter version of an MLS Cup.
Actually, Leagues Cup, we beat Cruz Azul the first game, and we never played another team that wasn't an MLS all the way to the final.
That's
literally only played one Liga MX team. But with that said, and very rarely do I agree with Pedri Potter, but I think I agree with Pedri Potter here. I think that we're living in the moment, and I think that this is the biggest win in MLS history because I think that stood out for MLS being able to compete, even though, it's basically a South American team, what Inter Miami has right now. But I think that was a big deal for MLS. But for the franchise itself, I think your first trophy, whatever you want to say about the trophy, and I know a lot of people hate on the Leagues Cup, I still think that first trophy up until the moment is still the biggest for Inter Miami, just because it's just.
Well, you want to talk about trophies, Danny? First trophies, you got to talk about the Coastal Carolina Cup. Come on, that everybody know or whatever it was called that Neville won with the team. That's the first real trophy that they won, even though it wasn't a sanctioned tournament. But I see where you're going with this. I understand it's the first trophy that your team wins, that the club wins. It means a lot. A lot of people are going to remember it. But in terms of importance, I believe this game showed the world that Inter Miami can compete with some of the bigger teams in Europe, whereas beating Nashville for a Cafecito Cup trophy, I think can be arguably not the greatest achievement, but it's up there. But I still think this Porto win is by far the biggest achievement that Inter Miami has done in their short year.
Yeah, no, and look, it's hard to disagree with you. That's why I've said that I have such a hard time deciding one way or another. But I don't know, man. We have a very short history, and I think that our first trophy is going to be the biggest until our second one. But I understand globally why this is such a big deal, and who really had us beating Porto. If we beat Palmeiras, I still think the Porto one might be bigger, right? Because everybody looks at UEFA as, the big European teams. So even if we beat Palmeiras, I still think that the Porto win might be bigger than the Palmeiras one. Actually, yes. Do you think that the Porto one is still bigger than if we beat Palmeiras, that the Porto result is still bigger?
I don't know. I think they're of equal magnitude, Danny. I think you beat a powerhouse in South America. You beat a team in Europe who competes in the Champions League yearly.
And Darsh is saying Palmeiras is a better team. I agree. That's why I was saying since the beginning that I don't think that Inter Miami could beat Palmeiras. But that whole European stigma, right? The European the way we look at those European teams, I think is the reason why I think it would still be a bigger victory, a win over Porto than Palmeiras.
I mean, unfortunately, folks in the chat who are saying that Palmeiras has a better attack than Porto clearly hasn't watched Porto last year because they have Samu, who had something like 20-something goals and I don't know how many assists last year. Samu is an absolute animal. But what folks do not or are not taking into account is that my buddy Maxi Falcon and Frey, for a good amount of the game, put him in their pocket. Samu did absolutely nothing against Inter Miami. I think he only had one good opportunity and he wasn't able to complete it. But come on, guys. I mean, yes, Palmeiras is a great team, but they're not on the level as some of these European teams. And what Inter Miami did is again historic, and I think they can do it again tonight. I've been adamant that I thought that this was the more winnable game. Like you mentioned earlier, Danny, I thought the Palmeiras game was more winnable. Why? Because they play a brand of style that Inter Miami is used to playing. It's very South American. Inter Miami has a lot of South American players. So they play that same brand of soccer, and I think it favors Inter Miami more. And we're going to see tonight how it favors them. But I don't think that Palmeiras' attack is that much better than Porto's. I mean,
well, Palmeiras is lacking a good striker. They don't have a good consistent starting striker. And I'm seeing Ardar saying that Palmeiras star midfielder won't be playing.
Yeah, he's out.
Richard Rios?
No, not Richard Rios. Their number 10. He's out for the game.
Yeah,
he had a. I'll give you the name now.
Okay. Okay, so I guess we could get into tonight's game against Palmeiras. You said you're going to the game, no?
Yes, sir. I'll be there probably around 6:30, 6:45. I will be there. Getting some content. We'll get some stuff up on the Battered Herons channels, on Instagram. So make sure you guys are following. If you're not going to the game, make sure you guys are following the Battered Herons Instagram because we're going to be covering the game, and I'll be uploading stuff for you guys all night.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, and then real quick disclaimer before we start talking about Palmeiras. I've been hearing that people are saying that on this channel we don't talk enough football. We gas bag too much. So let's get into football talk, Solana, since people don't like when we gas bag. Palmeiras, you thought, like you said, South American style. They like to play with possession, but they don't have to play with possession. Against Al Ali, they only had like 30% possession, but they were very efficient with their attack. Even though they only had 30% possession, they had double the shots, they had double the corners. So they want to have possession. They don't need to have the possession, but because they have the possession, I think Miami can do what we've been expecting them to this tournament: sit back a little bit and work the counter. Richard Rios, being their most important player in the midfield, is the one that assists in the attack, although he is more of a central. He lays far back, central defensive midfielder. Very Colombian. Obviously, I'm not going to wear this jersey because they're playing, but Richard Rios is my guy. He is Colombian. He is the cog in this machine for Palmeiras in the midfield. But I think the name that people most recognize is the young kid, the 18-year-old Estaval, that already signed a contract with Chelsea. He hasn't necessarily shown the consistency. I think he's only 18 years old yet. So maybe we're getting him at the right time because he isn't what people are projecting him to be quite yet. But he is going to be very important for Palmeiras coming down that right side. No, sorry, that left side, is it? I'll tell you right now.
No, yeah, he's on the right side. He's on the right side. They have Facundo Torres on the left side.
Right. Coming down that right side. Well, the reason I say, because I remember that he was going to be going down the right side, because my worry is Jordi Alba is going to be pushing high up, as he always does. But he pushes up high. He's going to leave a lot of space in behind for Estaval. Now, Noah Allen's going to have to cover in a lot of that space. How do you see this game playing out?
Look, I've seen this team, play already many times in the Libertadores. I've seen them play in the Club World Cup now. It's a good team. They have very good players. They have Victor Roque, who's fantastic. Like I mentioned, they have Facundo Torres, who he didn't, he wasn't unbelievable when he played for Orlando City, but he was a good player. You mentioned Richard Rios. They also have Joaquin Piqueres on the back line. Weverton is a fantastic goalie. The player
Piqueres
who's gonna,
is. I'm sorry to cut you off, but Piqueres, Uruguay. People say that he's the best left back possibly in South America right now.
They're mistaken. They're mistaken. I've seen this guy play. He's not even in the top 10 of left backs in South America. He's on the national team for Uruguay. Take it from somebody who watches these people.
No, absolutely. That's why I brought it up to you, because that's
pure
I figured
smoke.
Uruguay I could ask you. Okay.
Pure smoke. I'm being, and you know me, I'm the most pro
absolutely.
Uruguayan. So I'm telling you the truth here. Yeah, no way. And the guy who's going to be missing the game for Palmeiras is Aníbal Moreno. He's their center midfielder who plays alongside Richard Rios. He picked up a knock and he won't be ready for the game tonight.
And for those wondering, they play a 4-2-3. Moreno and Rios are usually those deep-lying midfielders. Viega is usually the attacking midfielder, then he's flanked. You have Roque as a striker, and then the wingers, Torres on the left and Estevao on the right. The Paraguayan center back. I forgot his
Talking about Gomez?
Yeah.
Gomez?
Supposedly
Gustavo Gomez.
Gustavo Gomez, thank you. Supposedly he is the rock in the back, but the weakness, because for those of you that haven't watched already, Chris had a Brazilian journalist on here on Friday night previewing the game, and he said one of the weaknesses, if you can say that there's a weakness on this team, is the speed of their center backs. So if they get count on the counter, we could use our speed. But he said the fact that we start Luis Suarez, it almost negates that as it being a weakness for Palmeiras.
I mean, yes, I can see that. But look, Suarez, I thought he played fantastic against Porto, holding the ball up, getting those one touches out. Yeah, he didn't score, but he does so much more for the team that folks, especially I guess folks who say that they want you to talk more football on the channel, maybe they should gas bag a little bit more, because maybe they just don't understand what they're watching when Luis Suarez is playing. Yeah, he's slower. Yeah, he had a couple of chances to finish. He didn't get to a ball that Messi put that was fantastic, but he did so much more that game. And I think what he's done previously in the Brazilian league, which, when he played there, shows you what he's capable of doing against some of these guys. Yeah, he's a couple years older, but he's also a couple years smarter. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think they're going to continue playing the way they're playing, looking for Telasco Segovia on the through balls, looking for Tadeo Allende on the through balls, using Suarez to play up against him with his back to the goal. And then if he gets an opportunity, I'm sure he'll have a chance to score. But I don't look at that, because that was the same thing that you could have said against Porto, right? That Miami, is not going to be able to attack them because they're too slow up front. You could say that about every team now that we play against. Yeah, Suarez is not faster than 90% of the defenders that play in the MLS, but that hasn't stopped him from scoring in the past. That hasn't stopped him from being in the game, from getting good passes in, from good hold to play. Not every single game, but he's had his games where he's done well. And I think this is a game that he's going to do well in. He's done well the first couple games in the Club World Cup. And why not get a third game in?
Absolutely. And Vice Rosa asked how are Palmeiras doing in Libertadores. They haven't lost a game yet. I think they have a few clean sheets leading up to this game in the Libertadores. They've looked very, very good so far in the Libertadores. So just wanted to put that
Palmeiras, just to give folks an idea, Palmeiras hasn't lost a game, and I'm going back here for a few months, but Palmeiras has not lost a game since May 16th, 2025, when they lost 1-0 to Corinthians in the first leg of the Paulista final. They won 1-0. They have not lost a game since. They have beat every opponent that they have faced. Oh, I apologize. I missed the game here. They lost April 27th against
So
Bahia
fine.
1-0. No, it's a Bahia. That's it. That's the last loss that they've had.
Well, for those of you that are going to watch the game and you haven't really watched too much Palmeiras, and I'm not going to say I have, I just like to watch Richard Rios. So whenever I get a chance, I watch them for him. But Richard Rios, as you can see right there, last game, he is the guy in blue with the 7.8 rating. He is going to be the one that touches the ball the most. He is one that connects the back line to the front line. He contributes the most in the attack as far as helping build in that midfield. And he is that guy to watch for. He is on a yellow card, as you can see there, though. And so that might be something that he has on the back of his mind. He can't be too aggressive because another yellow card and he gets suspended for a game, which could be a benefit for us as far as his defending. But that is Palmeiras. Now, as far as Inter Miami goes, I know you said Luis Suarez has to start, which makes sense. I can't imagine that he wouldn't start. But how do you see this team lining up tonight?
And I think we're going to see the return of Jordi Alba. Obviously, the injuries from last Thursday's game are going to affect the lineup.
For those watching on YouTube, real quick, I put up the lineup from last game.
Right. Going over what we saw last game, I thought everybody pretty much played well. Obviously, Wigan went down with what looked like a lower back injury. Hopefully, he's able to come back. If not, we're probably going to see Benjamin Kremaski play right back. Frey looked like he went down with some cramps. Hopefully, it was just cramps, like Mascherano said.
Frey. You said Frey?
Yeah.
Frey, he has an abductor injury.
That's right.
He's out 4 to 6 weeks.
Oh, it's final. It's 4 to 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So you're probably going to see Falcone and Allen in the center back there, and most likely you'll see I don't know, man. Maybe we'll go with Toto. I don't know. If this could be a game for Toto, if this is going to be a game for Allen, considering that Victor Roque is a pretty tall guy. We're going to have to wait and see, but I expect Jordi Alba to be back in the starting lineup. I expect the midfield to look similar to what we see there. Maybe Redondo for Kremaski, because we know Kremaski might have to play right back if Wigan is not ready to go. And then the forwards are going to be, as always, Messi and Suarez.
What do you think of Segovia? Because a lot of people don't like Segovia when he's out there. I think he's a steady presence in the midfield, especially when he gets central, the way he can connect with players. And he finally finished. I don't think he's that great of a finisher, but he finished last game, had that big goal to tie the game to start the second half. I think he can, as always, be an X factor when he's given the freedom to kind of drift into the midfield, especially if Jordi Alba's making those runs up the left side.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be – look, if Jordi Alba is starting, we always have to take a closer look to that left flank. Why? Because, like you said, he goes up way high, and he leaves this huge hole. Unfortunately for Noah, when he's playing next to him, he's the one that's responsible for covering that huge hole. And it's a big responsibility. But going back to Segovia, look, I thought he had a good game against Porto. He's very uneven to me. He's very inconsistent because he has some games where he seems like he's just plugged in and he's into the game and he gives some good passes. He has some good chances at goal, gets a chance to finish some goals as well. But then he disappears for spurts at a time. And that's not something that you want in one of your midfield players, especially we're used to what Diego Gomez used to do when he was here. And now I know Segovia is a different kind of player, but I think you missed that a little bit. And I think that's what Fafa gives you when you put him in for Segovia. And that's why I would love to see Fafa get some more minutes, maybe not at the expense of Segovia, but when we get back into the MLS calendar season, I would really love to see Fafa get some more minutes, whether it's on the right or left flank. I think he just gives us a little bit more defensively than what Segovia gives us.
Now, Piqueres, the left back that you said was overrated, apparently. He does push up very high, much like Jordi Alba. A lot of the attack comes from him, from the wide areas. So because of that, you're going to have chances to get in behind for Allende. I think that Allende is going to be crucial in this game as far as the X factor, because they're going to be left with a lot of space in behind Piqueres when he pushes up also. And apparently, like we said, supposedly one of their weaknesses is the speed of their back line. I mean, Allende is the only player we have that can go vertical, that can make those line-breaking runs, as they like to say. So I think Allende is going to be key, and obviously Messi, right? Now Messi last game, and I think did I put the, I don't know, I didn't put the picture, but there was a picture where I saw where Messi, he was literally standing as in the run of play in between the back line and Busquets. That's how far back he was dropping to contribute in the attack because he's looking for the ball. Now, I hope that we do a better job of unlocking Messi with Busquets, because Messi dropping that far back is never a positive.
No, it's definitely not a positive. But if that's what he has to do to get the team going, he's gonna do it, right? Everybody knows that Inter Miami's chances in the Club World Cup rely not, I wouldn't say all, but heavily on a little bit of Messi magic, like we saw against Porto, him putting in that free kick. Yeah. I saw that he was upset, and rightfully so, right? Rightfully
Absolutely.
so.
Allende has to be that X factor. He can be, but if he's making all that first half that he played was horrible.
Brutal. It was brutal. It was brutal. It looked like he would just get the ball and run in a straight line and lose it, or he wasn't making the right runs.
And for those on audio, we're talking about Allende.
Yeah. So I mean, dude, I think it's gonna be an interesting game tonight. Obviously, one team's weakness, Palmeiras' weakness, is not Inter Miami's strength. Speed is not their strength, but the fact that Palmeiras plays a South American brand style of soccer, I think is going to help out. Like we talked about at the top of the show, is going to help out some of these South American players who are used to playing that style. Segovia is used to playing that style in the eliminatorias. Falcon is used to playing that style. Wigan is used to playing that style if he plays. Obviously, Suarez and Messi are used to that stuff. So that's why, like I've been pretty adamant about it. I think Palmeiras was the biggest or the best matchup for Inter Miami in this group stage, and we're going to see it tonight. You know, there was a question that somebody brought up at 7:35 by Edmundoto, and it's an interesting question that I maybe we can get into it really quickly because I have some interesting opinions on that. So he says, deep question, is this the real Inter Miami we're seeing right now, or has the MLS teams they played this year just gotten that much better? So I'm going to give you my opinion, and then I'll let you go, Danny, because I think there's certain things that are going on in this Club World Cup that favor Inter Miami. One, the size of the field. For those of you who haven't been to Chase Stadium, Inter Miami's pitch at Chase Stadium is not the widest. Yes, it does abide by FIFA rules, but it's not the widest. The pitches that they're using in the Club World Cup are bigger pitches, they're wider, and I think that helps Inter Miami a lot during the game because they have a little bit more time to receive the ball, to look up and make a play. If they're playing at Chase Stadium, I don't know if you remember, Danny, but they barely have 2-3 seconds because there's a player on top of them, and that's a factor of the size of the pitch. The other thing that I think has helped Inter Miami out a lot is the fact that some of these teams play a much more open style, whereas in MLS, the teams that we play like to play a counter, a back line of 4 or 5. They like to play a counter. And these teams in Europe, these teams in South America, they play a much more open style. They like to touch the ball. They like to look at through runs. And that's the style that Inter Miami likes to play. So it plays into their favor. So I don't think it's the fact that MLS teams are better. I just think that MLS teams look to defend more and play on the counter. They play that low block against us, which they know that we can't get through. And especially playing on a much more narrow pitch, which we have in the MLS, it hurts teams that like to play out wide, like to touch the ball, like to take their time like Inter Miami does to let the play develop. It hurts them because the smaller pitch allows other teams to be on top of you faster. So I don't think it's a fact that MLS teams are better. I just think it's the fact that Inter Miami is made for more for this type of tournament, more for these types of games than for the MLS itself.
I agree with the second part. The size of the pitch I hadn't considered so much, and that's interesting. I'm gonna look into that because I hadn't considered that at all, honestly. But ever since we played against Dolo and LAFC and we struggled to get through that compact defense where they sat back and they kind of just gave us the wide areas, after that, it felt like it laid out the blueprint for everybody. And we feel like we've been playing against that style of ball outside of against Columbus, against everybody that we played against, and that's why we've had such a hard time. And like you said, this tournament, those teams aren't playing that type of game against us, so it gives us a little more freedom. It gives Messi a lot more space, especially if what you're saying is true about it being a lot wider. I don't know how much wider it would be, but we have a lot more freedom to play, especially in the midfield. And you give Messi space, Messi can create a little bit of magic. And Darsh is asking, can we approach this game like the Columbus one? I think that's the best way for any inferior. Okay, let me rephrase that. It's not an inferior team, but if you feel like you are going to go up against a team that has a deeper roster than you, I feel like this is the smart way to play. That's why MLS teams do it against us, and I think it's our time to do it against the rest of the world. So yes, I do think that we should, and we might just kind of play the counter, sit back a little deeper. You definitely don't want to be too aggressive. Although I know you're talking about Roque, but from what I've been hearing, the striker position isn't necessarily a strength of theirs. So,
Well, we just put Samu in a body bag. So, I mean, you have to feel confident about what our defense has done this tournament. I mean, they've given up, 1 goal in 2 games. That's really well. Mind you, you haven't played PSG both games, but hey, you can only play the team that they put in front of you, right? And Inter Miami has done a fantastic job at attacking both of these games. And
we've had individual performances that have stood out. Ustadi, we could have given up more than 1 goal if it wasn't for Ustadi in that first game. Falcon saved our ass on the line with his header.
Right.
Perfect way of covering Ustadi's right shoulder. Frey, like we've had, that's right, to end the game. We've had some great individual performances as a unit. We've looked solid. So and I guess we'll get into it in a sec, but do I think that we can beat Palmeiras? I don't know, but I definitely don't think that it's far-fetched. And vice versa, real quick, Danny, what's that shirt? It's them goons from Dade County. It's the Heat shirt, that saying that Kendrick Perkins came up with. Batter fans, the website will be back next week. So I'm going to start wearing some of those shirts that are coming out soon. So you're going to the game. Before we get into the whole prediction and whatnot, I know you did want to bring up the attendance. So I'll let you have at it. What do you think about the attendance up until now and possibly tonight's game?
Well, I think the attendance has been fantastic, right? Inter Miami's first match, the inaugural match, got 60,000 folks. I was at the Porto game. There was about 30,000 for a Thursday 3 p.m. game. I thought it was good. Look, folks have to understand that people in the United States work. So these 12 o'clock, 3 p.m. games, you're not going to get the average fan to go out there. People are working. You've seen some of the night games, the 6 p.m.s and 9 p.m.s get a little bit more filled up, which is probably makes more sense. But overall, you've had a couple games like the Mamelodi Sundowns against, I think it was Ulsan, that there was only like 1,000 people there or something like empty. That. Yeah. But you have to understand where these teams come from, right? Mamelodi comes from Africa. Unfortunately, maybe their fan base doesn't have the means to travel. Ulsan, similar. And these teams maybe don't have that as big of fan bases as other teams. Where I'm really disappointed, Danny, is in the European teams, because they haven't really brought the fire when it comes to bringing their fans over. That River PSG game, River PSG, what am I talking about? That River Monterrey game the other day, there was a bunch of River fans all over the place. The Boca Bayern game that I was at, 65,000 people at Hard Rock Stadium. 62,300 were Boca fans, and the other 2,000 and change were Bayern fans. They only had 2 sections for Bayern fans. So I think the attendance, especially from the CONMEBOL teams, has been outstanding. Now let's talk about the attendance on Inter Miami. Big disappointment from Solana there. I know some inside folks from La Familia have told me that they're boycotting the Club World Cup because they're upset that the club didn't get them the allotment of tickets to be together at the first game. Dude, you guys need to grow up. You guys need to grow up. You guys need to go out there. Your team is in a international tournament. They're in first place in the group, and La Familia is boycotting because Inter Miami didn't get you the tickets to sit together. Ooh, how old are you guys? 5 years old? You guys can't pick up the phone or get in your group chat and say, hey, everybody buy in section 123, or hey, everybody buy in section 122, and everybody goes and buys in that section. Sorry, but that's garbage. Honestly, I'm super disappointed at La Familia. Folks give me crap for not going to the games in 2020 or 2021. Dude, I haven't missed one game in the Club World Cup. To me, that's supporting your team. That is supporting the team. And that's not even my favorite team. My favorite team is Nacional. Inter Miami is my secondary team. So I'm going there and supporting the team. How come La Familia doesn't go out there and support the team? Because they can't sit together? That's crap. Sorry, but that's crap.
I don't know. I think it takes more to go and support the team in a regular season game on a Wednesday than go for a big tournament like the Club World Cup. So I don't know. I don't want to question their commitment because, like I said, I think when they show up on a Wednesday, when that stadium's half empty and they're cheering and nobody else is there on a Wednesday, I think that takes a lot more. And I think it is disappointing that they didn't allow them because I don't know. Maybe it is easier, but I can't imagine that it's easy to go ahead and buy tickets on the same section. But Danny, boycotting is weird. I don't know.
I did it for the opening match. I had 20 of my friends go. We all bought in the same section. It wasn't hard. You just go on an app and you buy the tickets. It's not very hard. You can post it in a group chat and say, hey, the whole familia is going to section 124. And you do your best. And if you don't, you at least get 125, 123. But you sit somewhat together so that you can get some chanting going on. But let me tell you, the Inter Miami games have been an absolute disappointing. The only thing you hear is Messi, Messi, man. Dude, it's annoying. That's the only thing people know how to chant. While the other fans, the Porto fans, who were maybe 1,000 at the stadium of the 30,000, they had the whole stadium going nuts. I mean, come on. Like, that's why soccer, unfortunately, football is never going to advance in the United States because the team doesn't even go support the national team. I understand the prices, and that's a little bit different. But, dude, I bought tickets for the opening match in the club section for $100. That is an absolute steal. Club section, $100. Come on, man. Like, if you love this team, you got to go out there and support it. And especially if you call yourself a diehard.
But I think that's where you're wrong because you said you spent $100 on club seats plus the parking. How much was the parking?
The parking was $40, and I split it with 4 people.
Okay, so it's $140 to go to that game. A lot of the people that are traveling all the way to Fort Lauderdale from Miami on a Wednesday, like they're like, "Yo, give me some fucking respect." Like, could you imagine people that are spending?
Dude, look at the Boca fans, bro. Boca came 60,000 deep. 60,000 deep.
No,
and I understand they have a lot of history and all that.
Absolutely.
But what about the Urawa Red Diamonds? They came from Japan, dude, and those guys are 5,000, 6,000 deep, and they're going up and down and up and down. No,
Solana, when I was in Orlando, I was actually when I was watching the game, I was in the pool, and there was a guy that was close to me, and we started talking about football, obviously, and it turns out he's from Liverpool. So I was like, "Oh, so you're a red?" He goes, "No, I'm a blue." I'm like, "Oh, sorry to hear that." And then we started talking about that. And then I asked him, I was like, how do you become a blue in Liverpool? Like, you know, it's so much history. He's like, I was born a blue. And this man was like in his late 50s, early 60s. He was born a blue. All his life, he supported this team for 50, 60 years. The only way that you're born a Heron is if you were born after 2020. Like, people want Inter Miami's culture and the diehardness to be like so strong, but like this team is brand new.
Okay, but you have these fans that go out there apparently, and again, I'm calling them out. This is what Solana does. Solana calls out the things when he sees them. They go out to these games on a Wednesday. Why? Because they pay $150 for their tickets for the entire year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So because the team doesn't give you free tickets to go to the Club World Cup,
but were they asking for free tickets? I think they were asking to be given a section so they can go ahead in their group and represent it.
Yeah, you can, like I said, you can go into your chat, into your supporters group chat and say, hey guys, we're all buying tickets in this section. And you just buy. Why do you need the club to go do that? Like, why do you need the club to go? And I understand that the club is supposed to do that.
But they usually that's what they do.
Yeah, but still, the games, both games are in Hard Rock Stadium. There's over 65,000 seats. And the fact that we don't get enough of La Familia to go out there to make some noise, to chant, and all people are chanting is Messi, Messi, or ole, 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 Inter. Like, dude, what are we? Are we like in my son's
club?
In my son's soccer league? Are we in my son's soccer league? Are we watching 5-year-olds play? Come on, man. Come on. Yeah. They want Inter Miami to be this big thing and all that, and the fans don't even go and support it. That's a joke, bro. That's a joke. I'm sorry. This team will never be what some of these South American teams are because the fans don't want to give it the respect and the culture that they deserve. They want to do it on their terms, and that's not how it works. You're a fan of a team. You don't do it on your terms.
I don't know. I disagree. I think that you want what other teams have, which I understand, and I hope that one day this sport gets there in this country, but it's not there anywhere near. And Pedri saying that we missed the biggest win in IMC history at home. They actually didn't play at home. They were playing in Atlanta, Pedri, which is nowhere near Miami. All right. So knockout stage, Inter Miami. A lot of people are saying that Miami's already in there. Miami isn't necessarily already in the knockout stage.
I mean, they're 95% in. The only way that they're out is if they get blown out.
And Al Ahly has to beat Porto, which I don't see happening. So I don't see Al Ahly beating Porto, and I don't see Miami getting blown out by Palmeiras. But 100%, they are not 100% in there. But we feel like there's one foot in already. Now, because of that, the Atlanta game from next week will probably get rescheduled. So anybody that had tickets to go see Atlanta, we have to wait to see when that game gets rescheduled. But knockout stage, we were just talking about it earlier. So just Atletico, Botafogo, or PSG. You feel like the best game for us is against Atleti?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And then Pedri, isn't USA your home? Yes, it is our home. But unlike most countries in Europe or in all over the world, Florida would be its own country in another continent. It's very, very far from where we live. And it's Colombia with an O. Thank you, Wade County. Atleti would be. I'd rather see PSG. I want to see PSG. I'd like to see us play against who people consider the best in the tournament. And that's who I would want to see. But I want to get into the Americas versus Europe. Will from MLS Moves put out a video where he's calling European teams and UEFA frauds. I think that's a little much. But what have been your thoughts on this tournament and how it's looked with the Americas, whether it be North or South, well, generally South in Brazil, over Europe?
Look, I think I don't know if I would go so far as to call Europe frauds.
Me either.
But I will tell you this. I think the world is starting to see that the football landscape is not as far off as some folks might have thought prior to this tournament. Now, the European fans are going to tell you, oh, we're not taking this serious. But that's BS that they're not taking it serious because the starters are playing. Now, if they're not putting their all, then that's on them. There's $1 billion purse in this tournament. There's a lot of money to be won if you make it into the finals. And unlike MLS teams, these other teams, could use some of the money, not for signings, but I'm sure there's contracts in place where if you win, you as a person, as a player, get a portion of those winnings. So at the end of the day, they're playing for money. I think you can see how much money means to some of these South American nations more than it means to some of these other European footballers, because these guys are sitting on their cushy $1 million salaries while some of these guys in South America are scraping for hundreds of thousands of dollars so that they can feed their 20-member family. So I think you can see that, and not only in the players, but I think you're seeing it with the fans as well. The European fans didn't travel over as much as the South American fans. The South American fans have really been the heart of this tournament. And I had, no other expectation for this. I knew that this was going to happen because South America just feels the sport differently than the rest of the world.
No, and like a lot of people have been putting out there that the Brasileira, the Brazilian league, should be considered one of the top leagues in the world, and I think that it's finally starting to get its respect. The conversation is becoming a little louder. I mean, I'd take the Brazilian league over Ligue 1. I've constantly been trashing the French league because it's so top heavy with PSG and every once in a while Monaco. So I am all in on the Brasileira, and I love that they're getting a little more praise in the Portuguese league, like Wade County is saying. And I love it, and I hope that at some point we end up with a South American or Inter Miami, which it's a little further stretch of the imagination, but an America's champion for this Club World Cup. And I guess we could end it with this: expectations. Inter Miami, what are your expectations and just your prediction in general for the way this Club World Cup ends up for Miami?
Well, like I said before we went in, I thought they would pass the group stage, unlike a lot of folks thought. And unfortunately, I think the tournament ends for them after the group stage. Even if they match up against Atlético de Madrid, which I think is the most favorable matchup considering the other teams that are available to play, I just think that all three teams are superior enough. Inter Miami has too many injuries right now. And I think that's just going to end up affecting him. I think if Frey doesn't get hurt and he can continue playing center back as he did such a great job for basically that 1.5 games that he played between the first and the second game, I think Inter Miami would have a better shot at getting by some of these other teams. But really, if you have who we're going to have back there for the rest of the tournament, unfortunately, the injuries are going to be too much, and I don't think that they can overcome that.
So, but do you look at this as a success?
100%. Getting out of the group stage and being the only MLS team to do so is an absolute success. I
agree. I think that our goal was always get out of the group stage, look good. We beat Porto. We looked good against the second half. We looked good against Al Ali, and hopefully we do a good competitive job against Palmeiras tonight. And then just leave it off with this: your prediction for tonight, Palmeiras.
I'm going to be crazy, man. I'm going to say 2-1 Inter Miami.
2-1 Inter Miami. I like it. I don't know if I can go out and predict a win against Palmeiras. I'll predict another draw like I did with Porto, and hopefully I'm wrong and they end up winning. I'll say a 1-1 draw. But with a little Messi magic, anything can happen. Give him a free kick in a good spot. Now, one thing that worries me is that Palmeiras takes a lot of shots from outside the box, and we don't have Bright out there. And when we were looking back, we have made a video 2-3 weeks ago showing all the goals that Miami has conceded, and a lot of them are from outside the box, where our center backs push back deep into the box, and our center defensive midfielders are nowhere to be seen. So they give them the opportunity to take those shots from outside the box. So expect Viega, Richard Rios, all to start launching shots from outside the box. Hopefully Ustadi's on his A game. So that does worry me that they will take some of those shots and they might convert on that. But I'm going to say 1-1 and maybe some Messi magic gives us that 2-1 win over Solana. But I'm going to go 1-1. And with that, we will move on to the knockout stages. And it's going to be some interesting shows this week talking about who our opponent is. And just so everybody knows, we will know who our opponent possibly could be because those games will be played before our game. So we'll know if we win, we play against them. If we lose, we play against this team, and so on and so forth. So
we'll know the two options right after around 5 o'clock when the 3 p.m.
game starts at 3 o'clock. Yeah, so it should be interesting.
Hey, just out of curiosity, is this Pedri Potter guy from Spain?
We don't know. We don't know. He I know he's a big Barca fan, and he always refers to us as Americans. So he's not from here apparently, but I have no idea where he's from.
Drop in the chat where you're from, Pedri Potter. If you're from Spain, it all makes sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know, but he likes to call us Americans, and whatever.
Except you're from Colombia, I'm from Uruguay, so technically we are South Americans. Poor guy. He needs. I'm curious to know where he's from, because if he's from Spain, again, it all makes sense to me. The BS that he's talking makes complete sense to me because, I really don't. I love following him in the chat, but But I don't know.
He could be distracting sometimes.
So
If you're
negative.
listening on audio, appreciate you listening all the way to the end. Please 5 stars, comment, review, all that good stuff. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching all the way to the end. Please like, subscribe, share, tell your friends. And as always, for you in the chat, we appreciate you hanging out with us for the last hour. And we will be back later tonight for the post game for the Palmeiras Inter Miami game. Hopefully, celebrating a win. So until the next one, have a good one.
See you at the Rock.